everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Karina, and thank you for joining me on my panning journey. Today, we are starting off a new project, and this one has to do with eyeshadow usage. So unlike a traditional either pan that palette or a pan those eyeshadows, I just want to do usage on my eyeshadows. The reason why I like to rotate through them, I like to have variety, flexibility, and eyeshadow does take a very long time to even hit pan on. So what I'm going to be doing for this project is it's going to be a rolling project where I have all of my single eyeshadows and every eyeshadow in all of the palettes that I own, and they are listed in an Excel sheet. I am going to be working on 3 shadows at a time that I'm going to be randomizing from that particular list, and I want to use each of them 10 times before I roll them out. This is going to allow me to get a better sense of really what's all in my collection, what formulas I like, the palettes that I do want to keep, the palettes I may want to choose to declutter. I am subscribed to BoxyCharm, and of course BoxyCharm does tend to send a fair number of eyeshadow palettes, which is one of the reasons why my collection has grown to the size that it has. I do have a total of 449 pans of eyeshadow listed in my Excel sheet coming across my collection, which is a lot of shadow to be familiar with and to play and decide what I like or what I don't like. So this project is going to allow me to do it. It's going to allow myself to challenge myself a little bit so I can actually come up with some different looks, some unique looks, but also not be too restrictive, because I do want to be able to pull eyeshadow palettes into my themed project pans. Those of you who caught my This Is Fantasy intro know that I do have the Ditto Venus eyeshadow palette in there for one of my prompts. And I also do have cream and liquid eyeshadows that I do want to use up because I do have a fair number of them in my collection, and they're very easy for a quick, on the go, kind of a one and done for the most part. So I do want to make sure I still get use on all of that. So this is going to be a project that is going to be very relaxed, very chill, and I'm just going to make some progress, see what I can get done, and of course roll these shadows out after the 10 uses. So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, make sure you like this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys continue with me on this particular journey. This project is going to run for the year, and I'm going to be updating you guys probably somewhere in the middle of the month, so probably somewhere between the 15th and the 20th, just so that you have some updates in between all of the other updates that I do on this channel, since I do a fair amount of project panning. So as I mentioned, I did put every single pan of eyeshadow into an Excel sheet, and I did randomize that using Google, the random number generator. And of course, these are the particular ones, the numbers that correspond to the eyeshadows that I'm going to be rolling in for my update. And for those of you who like color, this is going to be a very exciting first month for you guys. I generally tend to lean towards neutrals or more softer colors in most of my looks, but this is going to challenge me, going to push me outside my comfort zone. And again, that helps with the pace of this particular project, right? Just so I can play with these colors without getting burnt out on them and being flexible with how I want to wear them, the situations I want to wear them to, etc. The very first number that was rolled in that you guys saw was number 73. And 73 is one of the items that I have within this palette here. So this is a Mary Kay palette. It's an empty palette that I have used to fill in basically a whole bunch of either singles or things that I've depotted, things like that. So just to give you an overview of this palette, this is what it looks like here. These trios both come from Elizabeth Arden. This olive color right here, this one came from Annabelle. These 4 here, these came from Ofra in a BoxyCharm, so in like a eyeshadow and face palette. The rest of these down here, so the 2 rows, these are all of my Mary Kay. So we have a duo here, and we have some singles. I did have this palette in kind of a Shop My Stash rotation in the fall of last year, so I have some ideas about this particular palette. But the shade that I have rolled in for this intro is this green right here. So this is the Mary Kay single eyeshadow in Emerald Noir. I think I've used this only a couple of times so far. A very pretty green. It's a very wearable kind of color as well. So I do look forward to playing with this particular one. I do tend to use my palettes holistically. So that means on days when I'm planning on using this green color, that means I'm going to be playing with this palette for pretty much all of that eye look. I don't like to dip into multiple palettes. It just doesn't appeal to me in how I get ready in the morning, especially on days where you have to get ready a little bit more quickly. So that's also going to be one of the reasons why it's going to be slower for me to make progress on all of the palettes at the same time as well. But that's our first color, so that is the Emerald Noir. The second color that I rolled in was 302, and the numbers around there correspond with this palette. So this is the Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless Constellation palette. And I actually debated rolling this one into my This Is Fantasy palette because the prompt for that one was the werewolf, which is a celestial themed product. And this obviously does fit that theme as well. But I did pick the Ditto palette because I thought it would be easier to get more use on. That palette as a whole is in that project for 25 uses, so any shadows in there. But this one is much more of a colorful palette. So if we bring this one up, so you guys can kind of take a look at everything that's in there, it is a lot more vibrant. We have a lot of different finishes within this palette. And the eyeshadow that I rolled in was Neptune. So that's this blue right over here. So a very gorgeous blue. I do like these royal, deeper blues, but they're not something I wear every day. And generally this palette, right, it doesn't have a whole ton of use on it, as you guys can see. Again, another reason why I want to just simply do the usage for this. So that is Neptune. And like all the other eyeshadows in this palette, it is going to be rolled in for 10 uses before it rolls out. The third eyeshadow comes to us from a palette I received in BoxyCharm. So the number you saw was 355, and that is in my Cab Cosmetics, the Day and Night palette. And the inside of the palette looks like this. And this is one I have used in, I think, 2 Shop My Stash kind of rotations. So you can see that there is some good usage on this palette, especially compared to most of my other palettes. Right, you'll notice the shade Halo and Naked, right? Those have some dips in there as well. So we've got some good usage. But of course, the color I rolled in is one I have used, but is probably, yeah, kind of towards one of my least favorite in the palette, and that is this shade right over here in Burnt Orange. Right, I really gravitate towards the purples, the browns, all of these gorgeous shimmers in there. But this orange is a bit more on the vibrant side, so we'll be interested to see what I do to play with it. So again, that's that Burnt Orange shade, and you can see a little bit of use in that palette. Well, and you can see a bit of use in that particular shade as well. But that is the third eyeshadow that I'm going to be rolling in for 3 uses. 3 uses! As the third eyeshadow that I'm going to be rolling in, again, with the goal of using that particular shade 10 times, which means this palette is going to get 10 uses on it as well. So those are the 3 shades that I have randomized for this intro for the project. And so let's talk about some goals. So again, as I mentioned, I want to have flexibility to roll palettes in for my themed projects. I also want to be able to use my cream and liquid shadows. And again, not have a ton of pressure, like I have to use these shades. I do want to make progress. I do want to progress and really roll in as many shades as I can. But if I was to use all of these 10 times, right, that's 30 days. That's basically your entire month. And then I wouldn't be able to use eyeshadows in other projects. And I would have to use, in this case, a lot of very colorful looks on a daily basis, which isn't necessarily my general style or what I gravitate to on a daily basis. Obviously, I do like to play with some color, but I choose when I do that color. So to get us started, like normally I would like to have at least 1 palette rolling in and out every month for you guys, because as a viewer, that's much more exciting to watch. But because this is going to be for the first month and we're starting at 0 with all of these, I'm going to start off with a goal of using each of those 3 colors, Emerald Noir, Neptune, and Burnt Orange, 5 times each for my next update. That way they have progress, and then that way for the next update, so update number 2, then something will be rolling out and rolling in for you guys to keep the project nice and fresh. So those are my goals for the first update, which of course is going to be coming for you guys somewhere between the 15th and the 20th of February. But that's going to wrap us up for this project today. So thank you so much for joining me as we kick off another area of my panning journey, a project exclusively focused on my eyeshadows. And like I mentioned, it's going to be a little bit more relaxed, going to be a little bit more chill, and we'll just see how much we can do. If you're excited or have any particular ideas, suggestions, tips for any of the shades that I have shown you today, or how they can work with the palettes that I have shown you, make sure you leave me a comment down below, and I will see you guys in my next video very shortly. Have a wonderful day.